The 20th year after marrying Stephen, the long-lost system told me that my mission was complete, and I could go home. Thus, I allowed Stephen and his son to hand over all the remaining grain coupons in our home to the female protagonist of this story, letting my son give his college spot to the protagonist's daughter. My friend next door asked me why I had suddenly become so accepting. I just smiled and replied, "Because I'm going home." But little did I know, they went crazy upon finding out. Chapter 01. Beep. Dear host. Hello, your vicious female antagonist series of tasks has been completed. The portal to return to the real world will open in 5 days. Please prepare yourself. Hearing that long-missed mechanical voice, I felt somewhat dazed. I had transmigrated into this world and had been living in this remote countryside for 20 years. In my senior year of college, while looking for a job, I unexpectedly transmigrated and was bound to the system. I thought, like all the romance novels, I was here to save the male lead or win over the devoted second male lead. But the system told me that my task was to push the plot to develop normally and make it so that the main couple wouldn't easily get together. Since then, the system had never come online again. If the system hadn't suddenly reminded me, I would have forgotten that I still had a mission on me. Mrs. Lin, why are you spacing out? Your watering is about to drown the vegetables. It wasn't until Sandra, who lived next door, grabbed the watering can from my hand that I snapped out of it. After feeling a bit annoyed, I apologized to Sandra, then squatted down to dig a channel to drain the overflowing water. Then, I took the watering can back from Sandra and continued watering. Mrs. Lin, you're smiling so happily. Is it because your Simon is going to study in the city? It really sounds wonderful. If my child got in, I could wake up smiling every night. But my child isn't as good as your Simon. Maybe it's because you guys are educated. The child you have can read and write. Sandra laughed, waved her hand, and teased. Hearing this, the smile on my face gradually faded, and after a pause in my actions, I resumed working. It's not because of that. As for college, Simon told me yesterday that he's not going. Not going? Sandra widened her eyes and looked at me. Mrs. Lin, this is no joke. The university Simon got into is one that many people wish to attend but can't. How can Simon decide not to go? Is there some difficulty at home? You must persuade him properly. This isn't something to joke about. If your family has any troubles, let us know. We'll definitely help if we can. Listening to Sandra's words, I felt a sense of relief inside, but thinking about the reason my son isn't going to school, I couldn't help but sigh slightly. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Sandra frowned and finished pouring the last spoonful of water. It must be because of the Bai family's daughter. In my opinion, both the mother and daughter of the Bai family are nuisances. The mother is a pest to your husband, and the daughter is a pest to your son. Truly shameless. Sandra stood beside me, working while cursing them. If it had been before, I might have agreed with her, complaining about family troubles together. But just now, the system told me that originally I only needed to stay here for 4 years, but due to a system glitch that wasted my time, after I returned to the real world, I would not only receive a reward of 10 million but the system could also grant me one wish. I was almost knocked unconscious by this good news. Filled with the excitement of wanting to escape my current situation, I didn't have time to care about the Lin family's two foolish father and son. So, I stopped listening to Sandra's complaints about her own family affairs. After hurriedly saying goodbye to her, I went to the team leader and exchanged all my previously saved work points for grain coupons and cloth coupons, as people in this era still needed grain coupons to buy things. Then, I rushed to catch the last train into the city, exchanged the cloth for a piece of high-quality fabric, and had the store make me a new outfit. After that, I went to a restaurant I hadn't dared to eat at in years and had a big meal, before leisurely carrying a few vegetables and a small amount of meat back home. Anyway, since I was going home, if I don't use these work points I've saved up, it'll be a waste, and they'll just go to the Bai family's mother and daughter pair for nothing. Chapter 02. When I first arrived, Stephen was still a clear-headed, promising university student, so after I married Stephen, everyone said I had struck it lucky. They just couldn't see me getting up at dawn to set up a breakfast stall and earn money. Nor could they see me being constantly nagged by his mother day and night because I couldn't provide support for Stephen. But I didn't mind. After all, Stephen was indeed very good to me. He would pick me up and go home together when he had no classes, stand in front of me when Lynn's mother criticized me, and massage my back when I woke up exhausted in the middle of the night. I truly wanted to change Stephen's ultimate lonely and disgraced fate. But later I realized I was wrong. No matter how hard I tried, the predetermined ending wouldn't change because of me, an outsider. In the end, Stephen fell in love with the female lead, Maria. He not only gave up his high-paying job but even volunteered to move to the countryside. He stayed in the village for 18 years. All these years transformed me from a vibrant young girl into a genuine housewife juggling farm work and household chores. I looked at my rough hands and bulky figure with a hint of self-mockery, relieved that these hellish days were finally over. When I passed by one straw hut after another and reached the only cramped small house, I saw my son placing his university acceptance letter and the money I had saved into Maria's daughter's hands. Luna, you're a girl. You need this acceptance letter and the money more than I do. When you go to the city, things will definitely be different from the village. This money is from your father and me. Please take it. My husband, standing beside us, lovingly persuaded Maria and her daughter. After 2 rounds of refusal, Maria finally accepted with deep gratitude. I laughed at the scene before me. Sandra was somewhat right. The mother and daughter were truly heartless, treating their own futures like a game. Even though I didn't want to deal with them anymore, Simon was still a part of me, driven by maternal love. I frowned and snatched the acceptance letter from him. Simon, have you made up your mind? Not to mention how hard it was for you to get into university. If the fact that you transferred your spot gets discovered, then you, Mom, Simon impatiently interrupted me. This is my choice. Dad agreed too. Why are you interfering with my decision? You've been in the village for so long. Don't you know how hard it is for girls to get into university? And you taught me to be helpful. But you're so stingy yourself. I looked at him with disappointment, not understanding why my efforts to educate my son had resulted in this. She needs it. She can take the exam herself. All these years, you and your father have given them grain and meat coupons. Even the money I saved for your education goes to them. Have you ever thought about how our family is going to survive? After saying that, I couldn't help but cast a reproachful glance at Maria and her daughter. Thanks to Stephen and his father's occasional support, they were well taken care of. They didn't have to do farm work, and Stephen even gave his job as a points clerk to Maria, making her the best off among our group of sent-down youth. After hearing my words, tears welled up in Maria's eyes. She returned the money to me. Mrs. Lynn, it's my fault. Stephen told me that what he gave me was all that was left from your side. Things you didn't need. I didn't think much about it. Please don't fight because of me. For this university, my daughter Luna will take the exam herself. I will earn the money for her education on my own. Stephen, thank you for all your help over the years. But to prevent Mrs. Lynn from misunderstanding, we should reduce our interactions. As Maria tried to leave, Stephen, looking anxious, grabbed her hand. Maria, what are you talking about? This household isn't her place to meddle in. Simon and I, 2 men, don't need that much money. You 2 girls should have some savings for yourselves. And what do you mean by reducing interactions? I'm married now. What could she possibly misunderstand? All right, just take the money and things. In the end, I could only helplessly watch Maria and her daughter take the money and acceptance letter and leave. After a disappointed glance at the father and son, I casually threw the basket I had been carrying onto the table and turned to leave. This place was too suffocating. I needed to escape, but before I could take 2 steps, Stephen called out to me. Virginia, were you doing this on purpose? Chapter 03. I stopped in my tracks, not because of Stephen's stern words, but because of that long familiar name. It's been such a long time, so long since anyone called me by that name. Ever since being sent to the countryside, people initially called me Miss, then Mrs. Lynn, but no one ever used my actual name. Why did you have to say that just now? Maria has been spoiled since she was young, and being sent down has already been too much for her. Are you going to stab her in the heart? Our family isn't short on money. Why do you have to poke holes in this facade? Is making others embarrassed your goal? Why are you so vindictive? That's right, Mom. Didn't you see how Luna was on the verge of tears after what you just said? Why is your heart so hard? Besides, Luna is definitely going to marry into our family in the future. The university spots are the same for everyone, aren't they? Can't you stop being unreasonable? Hearing this, I really wanted to laugh. They didn't earn the money or the work points themselves, so of course they thought I was being heartless. Since Steven was sent to the countryside, his health has never been good, so I was forced to do the work of 2 people alone, just to earn extra work points to exchange for grain coupons to help his health. At first, Steven was still considerate of me. He would even cry and apologize to me at night when he saw my hands becoming rough from farm work. Every time this happened, I would feel grateful that I had married the right person. Later, after he learned that Maria wasn't eating or sleeping well, he stopped caring about me. Not only did he give the few grain coupons our family had to Maria, causing me to faint from low blood sugar several times due to not eating enough. Later, he even stayed all night outside her door despite his own weak health, completely disregarding my feelings while I was pregnant. Then, after his health improved significantly, he started working desperately on farm tasks to earn work points to exchange for cloth coupons. I thought he wanted to exchange them for our son's use, but later I discovered it was because Maria envied others' nice clothes. There have been countless such incidents over these 18 years. At first, I would get angry with him and even considered divorce. But seeing our little son, I always felt discouraged. I always thought I could endure for the sake of the child. Endure, and that endurance led us to now. A sharp pain in my hand snapped my wandering thoughts back. I looked at the hand gripping my arm. Unlike the gentle grip on Maria's hand, Steven's hand clenched mine like an iron clamp. His fingernails were slightly white from the pressure, just like his pale, sickly complexion. I thought absent-mindedly, Virginia, why are you spacing out? I'm talking to you. I originally thought I would argue with them as usual, yelling and crying about why. But unexpectedly, looking at Steven and his son now, all I felt was annoyance. I forcefully slapped the hand Steven was holding mine with, watching him release it in pain. The suffocating frustration inside me finally dissipated a bit. It won't happen again. Do whatever you want. Saying that, without looking at the father and son's questioning faces, I turned and left, letting the setting sun take away the last warmth from my body. Chapter 04. One night staying at Sandra's house. I slept exceptionally well. I wasn't awakened in the middle of the night by Steven's uncontrollable coughing, nor was I disturbed by Simon's studying noises in the morning. I even woke up naturally after a full night's sleep and enjoyed hot meals, something I had never experienced while staying at the Lin family's home. If life could be so comfortable, who would want to work themselves to death? Countdown to return to reality, 48 hours. Perhaps my absence from home these past 2 days made Steven and his son feel a sense of urgency, so they arrived at Sandra's house early in the morning to apologize to me. There's no lasting grudges in a family. As long as we talk things out, life must go on. Mrs. Lin, trust me, your good days are still ahead. Sandra's mother-in-law smiled reassuringly, while Sandra herself held my hand with a worried expression. I forced a smile and obediently followed Steven and his son back home, not out of softness, but because I had already been a burden to Sandra for too long. Staying any longer wouldn't be good for her either. Moreover, with less than 2 days left before my return home, it was time to put an end to things with Steven and his son. Once home, I pretended not to notice Steven's earnest expression. As if he wanted to have a heartfelt conversation with me, I turned around and went into the room to take out the grain and meat coupons I had secretly saved all these years. If it weren't for the sewing and small jobs I did during sleepless nights to exchange for grain coupons, I would have starved to death long ago. Seeing me about to leave without looking back, Steven, looking pale, blocked my path. Virginia, can you stop throwing a tantrum? I know you're angry with me for acting impulsively, but I promised Maria's parents to take care of her. We've been married for so many years. Simon and Luna are getting settled too. How could I still have anything with Maria? Please stop losing your temper. Do you know how much gossip the villagers have been spreading about Maria because of your actions these past few days? And can you learn from Maria and spend more time socializing with those city classmates instead of getting so close to these rural women? What can these country folk do for us? You've been around them for so many years that you've become so country-like. Don't forget, we're still going back to the city eventually. Stephen's slightly disdainful words made me laugh involuntarily. I glanced coldly at Simon, who stood aside nodding in agreement. Simon, do you feel the same way? Simon nodded proudly. Of course, Mom. We're educated people. Not like these face the soil and back to the sky farm workers. I mean, Mom, you should spend more time with Aunt Maria and learn how she takes care of herself. Look at yourself now, next year when I get into university. What if my classmates see you? Who knows how they'll laugh at you behind your back? I looked at them with disappointment, not understanding why they had turned out this way. Stephen, have you forgotten that it was your own mouth that called these uncouth people, forcing you to walk 5 kilometers to the city clinic to save your life? And you, Simon, it was your so-called farm workers who saved both me and you during my difficult labor. Otherwise, do you think you'd still be alive here to mock them? Simon, I didn't understand before why the son I personally taught would turn out so unreasonable, with his mind filled with romantic notions. Later, I realized that this is probably inherited from your father, and it can't be changed. Simon, Stephen, I've given you both my all, but I still can't turn things around. I'm tired after all these years. Let it be. Anyway, I was going home. Their lives no longer had anything to do with me. I picked up the green coupons from the table and turned to leave the house filled with my memories. Just as I reached the doorway, I locked eyes with Sandra, whose expression was complex. She struggled for a moment before grabbing my arm and saying, Mrs. Lin, I've thought long and hard and there are some things I need to say. I know there's a saying, better to tear down a temple than to break up a marriage. But seeing how poorly you've been treated all these years, even I can tell. So even if you distance yourself from me in the future, I need to say this, Mrs. Lin, divorce Stephen. If you have nowhere to go, you can continue living at my house. I can talk to my mother-in-law about it. If that doesn't work, I'll take you to stay at my parents' home. You once told me that your mother loves you very much. I can't even imagine how heartbroken she would be if she knew what you've endured all these years. Mrs. Lin, you told me before that to love others. You must first love yourself. How did you forget that? Chapter 05. Yes. How did I forget? After a moment of daze, I grabbed Sandra's hand and smiled, saying, Sandra, don't worry. I won't anymore. You don't need to worry about me because I'm going home. A noise came from behind. I turned around to see Stephen staring at me with a pale face. Indifferently, I withdrew my gaze and placed the green coupons I had been holding into Sandra's hand. Sandra, these are the coupons I've saved up over the years. Since I'm going home and won't need them anymore, I'm giving them all to you. Didn't you tell me last time that you wanted to make some beautiful clothes but didn't have enough cloth coupons? With these from me, you should be able to do it. Also, don't hesitate to use these meat coupons. Take care of yourself. Virginia. Stephen grabbed my hand desperately, his eyes full of panic. Aren't you an orphan? Where are you going to go? I frowned and shook Stephen's hand off, disdainfully patting the dust off my arm. Mind your own business about where I go. Stephen tried to say something more, but we heard someone shouting nearby. The Bai family girl has fallen into the water. Simon, who had been standing at the door with a mocking expression, turned ghostly pale upon hearing the news and ran toward the village's only river. Stephen's face also became anxious. Virginia. Luna has fallen into the water. If you want to go, go ahead. Do you think I can stop you from rescuing her? Why are you pretending to act like this here? I replied, somewhat bewildered. Stephen looked at me with a complicated expression for a long time before leaving with only one sentence. Wait for me to come back and explain, and then ran toward the river. I didn't bother to watch anymore. I had many things to do, and I wasn't going to waste any more time on these people. After explaining everything to Sandra, I ran to the team leader to subtly ask if I could proceed with the divorce unilaterally. Receiving a negative response didn't disappoint me. After all, the system had told me that once I left, my body here would die. It was just that this body would be buried under the name of Stephen's wife. Although it made me a bit uncomfortable, by then I would have already left and wouldn't be associated with it. After brainwashing myself like this, I no longer worried about the divorce. Upon returning home, unsurprisingly, the father and son showed no signs of returning. After all, This wasn't the first time such a thing had happened. When I was younger, I would still listen to his words and wait anxiously for an explanation he promised that night. But often, the next day, all I would receive was his "I forgot. Next time I'll tell you." Don't be so petty. Through days and nights of disappointment, I learned to brainwash myself. I convinced myself that Maria was a lonely person who indeed needed Steven more urgently than I did. I persuaded myself that Maria had already followed the plot's progression and was pregnant with the male lead's child, making it impossible for Maria and Steven to have any illicit affair. I brainwashed myself into believing that Steven still cared about this family. Later, I gave up. Some people are just despicable and can't change. With a light chuckle, I took out the cotton quilt I had prepared for Simon and covered myself, letting out a sigh of reflection. Since giving birth to Simon, I hadn't slept well even once. Every day was spent worrying about this or that. Even the good things at home were reserved for Simon. This cotton quilt took me more than half a year to gather enough cotton and cloth coupons. It took another few months for this quilt to be delivered to me. Originally, I intended to leave this quilt for Simon to take to university. But since he didn't want to go to school, it was better to keep it for myself than let the mother and daughter benefit from it. I stopped thinking about it and gradually fell asleep. Chapter 06. Countdown to return to reality, 8 hours. When I woke up in the morning, the house was empty. I didn't mind making breakfast for myself, thinking about what the cloth shop owner had made for me. At that time, I was too excited and didn't know if the cloth shop owner had understood my requirements. So I left. If I had suddenly left while they were modifying the clothes, it might have scared them, which would have been bad. After pondering for a while, I still thought staying here was better than waiting at the ready-made clothes shop. This way, the modifications could be done faster. And I also wanted to wear my new clothes and show them to Sandra. When I returned to the village wearing my new clothes, I successfully caught the envious glances of many people, including Luna, who had just returned from the team leader. Her gaze towards me held not only envy but also a hint of determination. As I expected, shortly after I arrived home and delivered my things and made some sales, the Lin father and son came back. "Virginia? You really made new clothes? This must have cost quite a few cloth coupons." At that moment, I was eating my last meal in this world. "Yes. What's wrong?" Steven didn't expect me to reply like that. The words got stuck in his throat. He could only press his lips together, pull my hand, and sit next to me. "Virginia, can you apologize to Maria and Luna? You know, Maria never had to suffer before being sent down. She was spoiled growing up. So whatever others gave her, she just took it without thinking anything was wrong. It was because you said those things in front of her that she realized she had been relying on us to survive all these years. And she couldn't bear it and sought death. Just consider it saving a life. Go apologize to them. If you really can't face it, then maybe you should compensate them with your new clothes. After all, you look so good in them. Their skin is fair and delicate. They'll look even better wearing them. If Maria feels better, maybe she won't seek death. You know how girls love beautiful things." I almost withdrew my hand the next second, feeling absurd and ridiculous. "Steven, I almost doubt how you got into university in the first place. She was the destiny of a wealthy girl. So am I supposed to suffer? Do you still think she's the 18-year-old Maria from before?" "Steven, we're almost 40. Being naive at 18 is called innocence. But being naive at 40 with kids already born is called pretense. Do you really think she didn't know our family's situation all these years? She knows. She just can't ask because she's afraid you'll reveal the truth. And if you do, she won't be able to live a life of comfort as she does now." "Steven, I've worked so hard for this family all these years. I don't believe you can't see it. And you, do you want the clothes? Can't you just say no? Why disgust me here? Honestly, you and Maria actually match quite well. Both are shameless." "Steven, after all these years of entanglement, aren't you tired? Let's divorce. I'll set you free, and you can be with Maria." I looked at Steven with resignation, feeling the pent-up frustration in my heart dissipate as I said these words. But Steven hadn't spoken yet. Simon first loudly objected. "No, Mom, do you have to do this? Do you really want to make everything a mess just to satisfy yourself? You know that the villagers have been gossiping about Aunt Maria and Luna because of your recent overreactions. And you're still saying these things. You're just trying to throw them into the fire. Besides, my dad and Aunt Bai have pure friendship. Just because you don't have female friends doesn't mean my dad can't have any. You just spent so much time with these rustic village women. Vulgar. Simon! I was so angry that I slapped the table hard. How dare you talk to me like that? Simon was startled but still stubbornly refused to apologize. I was completely disappointed. The wish the system gave me was supposed to be used for Simon, so that after I left, Simon could continue to live smoothly. But now I feel like a joke. So I finally used that wish on myself. I wanted to go back to when I first entered school. I wanted to experience my university life. Simon, since you don't like me being your mother and even think I've disgraced you, then let's cut off the mother-son relationship. From now on, you and your father have nothing to do with me. Chapter 07, Countdown to Return to Reality. 3, 2, 1. Finally, I could go home. Listening to the system's mechanical voice, I had never felt like crying so much. Through my teary eyes, I seemed to see Steven rushing over with a panicked expression, trying to grab me, but the next second, my vision went white, and I fell into unconsciousness. When I woke up, I was startled awake by a push and loud noises. Virginia, Virginia, class is over. Hurry up and go eat. I looked around dazedly at the unfamiliar faces beside me. You finally woke up. Hurry, hurry. There's only 1 minute left until class ends. I must eat sweet and sour pork ribs at the cafeteria today. 3, 2, 1, go! Before I could respond, the girl grabbed me and dragged me outside. Although I didn't understand what was happening, I followed her outside. After eating and lying on the dormitory bed, reality finally hit me. I had really returned. Dear host, your reward has been issued. Please check your account. Hearing this mechanical voice and seeing the modern developments around me, I was so startled that I threw my phone, something I hadn't touched in a long time, onto my nose, causing pain that made me grit my teeth. No doubt now, I had indeed returned. Just as I was about to curse, I suddenly remembered that the system had told me my reward was 10 million. Immediately, all feelings of anger vanished. I hurriedly opened my phone to check the balance. After confirming my bank account balance 4 or 5 times, I burst into laughter. A failed romance in exchange for living comfortably in the second half of my life. Thinking about it, it didn't seem so bad after all. As I happily fantasized about what to do with this money, the system spoke again. Congratulations, host. You have completed the mission. Would you like to know the outcome of your mission target after you left? The smile on my face faltered. Thinking of the Lin father and son, I still felt a surge of resentment. Are they doing well? If they are, I won't watch it. They are doing quite badly. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I always felt that when the system said this, there was a tone of schadenfreude. After learning that the Lin father and son met a miserable end, I actually became interested in their aftermath. So, I asked the system to play the footage of what happened after I left. After I suddenly died in front of them, Steven went crazy. Not only did he reject Simon's suggestion to bury me, but he also clung to me daily without letting go. Even when Maria came to persuade him to bury me, he didn't listen and even drove her away. Later, my corpse began to smell, and Simon couldn't stay at home anymore. He had to pack and move to the Bai family. He originally wanted to live as before, relying on others for everything. But how could the Bai mother and daughter treat him the same as I used to care for him? Now, Simon not only had to work 10 hours of farm labor daily to barely make a living but also had to rush back each day to cook for the two of them, even squeezing in time to sleep, let alone studying for the next year's college entrance exams. Simon soon realized this was not right, so he tentatively tried to get Luna to return the acceptance letter to him. But once the items were in their hands, how could the Bai mother and daughter let go? Later, under their brainwashing, Simon not only gave up the second year's college entrance exams but also supported the Bai mother and daughter until Luna finished university. Of course, it wasn't that Simon didn't want to continue supporting them, but that Luna had already found a new source of support. When Simon found out about this, Luna was already pregnant in the city and had even brought Maria into the city. All these years of effort had gone to waste, and Simon couldn't accept it. That day, he grabbed a knife and rushed to Luna's home, killing both Luna and her husband, and even Maria, who had gotten up in the middle of the night to see what was happening. Later, after shouting "Mother, I was wrong" to the sky, he committed suicide. After Stephen found out about this, he not only didn't react but also held my ashes, saying that it was Simon's fault. Later, Stephen was cheated out of his money by a fake monk who claimed to be able to revive relatives and died desolate in the woods. After watching it, I felt as disgusted as if I had swallowed a fly. No wonder people always say that late developing deep affection is worse than something cheap. People were not deceiving me. After unbinding from the system, I took the money and went with my mother to travel to all sorts of places. From then on, with mountains high and seas wide, they had no more connection with me.